we sort of got our lives in a position where we got rid of all the traditional home style living, and we moved into an RV. So we live in a fifth wheel full time now. It's always been a dream of mine. I didn't come into it with any preconceived notions it would be easy. The learning curve has been quite sharp, and everything I thought would suck about it does, and everything I thought would be awesome about it is, and the good far outweighs the bad, and we're having a total blast doing it.
Well, fill us in on your journey so far. I mean, obviously you and I keep in touch, from time to time. Obviously you're a brother of mine, and everyone's interested. Where's Matthew Pillmore been? We cut that video a couple months ago. What are you doing?
Let's set the record straight that we're not actual brothers.
Not actual brothers.
A lot of people think we are. They think we look alike.
I'm the poor man's Matthew Pillmore.
You're the older, wiser Matthew Pillmore. So at the end of the day, we hit the road after putting our property on the market as a short-term rental. And we've been practicing that now for a couple of years and really honing in our systems, our processes, and templating everything out. And that property today is outperforming anything we could have ever imagined. 10 years ago, if you told me you could generate what we're making on just one house, doing it through just VRBO, I don't even Airbnb that property. It's purely VRBO. I would have laughed at you. It just is outrageous, the amount of money that's coming in, enough to live on, truly, not just myself, but I pay the bulk of the expenses since it's all sort of funneled through that short-term rental business. And I've kind of dragged Kellyanne through this adventure with me. So I choose to pick up most of the cost there. And it's well more than enough to live on and have a surplus. But in addition to that, I also started another business that I mentioned not long back. I guess it's been a few months since I've talked about it in a video. But in December, we launched a drain business, pretty out of left field. Never anticipated being in the drain industry, but we do scoping and hydrojetting for residential and commercial property. And when you have a drain problem, it's quite an emergency. So we are doing very, very well with that, and I can't wait to share the results. Sneak peek, we almost broke $38,000 last month in June, and we're doing spectacularly this month as well, of which north of 80% is profit. So I'm going to go into detail on that with you guys because, frankly, it's almost entirely passive to me, and I think will help encourage you to really be out of the box when you're figuring out solutions to your short-term cash flow. And that's my main priority. Whereas I think a lot of people commit most of their time to their W-2'd wages as their short-term cash flow solution. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just like there's not anything wrong with me committing attention and energy and effort and resources, stress, sleepless nights, brain damage towards an income stream like this here on YouTube as an example, which we've generated revenue from for 10 years. But it's not going to ever be the only thing I do. And I'll diversify into something like a drain business, but it won't be the only thing I do. So I'll diversify into an Airbnb, but it won't be the only thing I do. So that's why I have long-term rentals. Now, the long-term rental side and the crypto investing that I'm doing, I split off into a second area, which I consider to be the long-term net worth investing side, right?
Crypto is back over 30.
Yay. I mean, listen, it's been a wild and expensive ride the last couple of months.
Yeah, and we're going to go ahead and drop a video link below. You did a dollar cost averaging video probably a month or so ago, Matthew. It was genius, and you included an app on there where folks can go online. They can figure out what that would be over the long term. Obviously, real estate is super volatile right now. You don't lose money unless you sell. I mean, to be very clear, whether it's real estate, crypto, any other asset class. So, the people that hit that panic button, and we talk oftentimes here on the channel about doom and gloom.
Well, we got to admit, you only lose if you quit in a lot of things in life. If I quit every business that I've started and run when things got hard, I would have taken a lot of L's. And by holding on, adapting to the response of my efforts, right? The universe, the data, the analytics, the audience, and ultimately the bank account are all going to respond to the effort I'm putting in. And if it's a lack of response or a negative response, that doesn't mean to give up. It just means that we need to adapt and to change and to shift. And sometimes it's the smallest tweak that can lead to the best results over time. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you only lose if you do sell something. It doesn't mean that something can't ultimately go to zero, right? I mean, you lost on MySpace either way, right? You lost on Nokia either way. But if you had a diversification of the space, if you were also invested into Amazon, which, by the way, to my recollection, lost north of 90% at one point, but ultimately made a lot of people a lot of money. If you were invested into Facebook, if you were invested into Apple, those three wins would far outweigh the L's you took from something like a MySpace or a Nokia investment if you did ride it all the way into the water. So yeah, I mean, you've got to realize that things are going to change. You have to be rolling with the punches, as they say.
You've got to be able to pivot, right? So you're looking at changing market conditions. You're looking at the economy. You're looking at interest rates. If you're in real estate, you're looking at obviously inflation, is a hot topic right now. Quick thoughts on those.
None of it changes anything I'm doing in terms of where my attention and focus goes.
I knew you were going to go there.
Right. I don't care. I just don't really care. Because again, it falls into the camp of no control. And of course, again, this doesn't mean throw your hands up and take a complacent approach towards your tax planning because you don't control the tax code. It means focus within the tax code on the things that you can have an impact through, like your tax plan, and move accordingly. But focusing on the ins and outs and who's right and wrong doesn't necessarily serve me well. So I'm only paying attention to the big picture stuff that allows me to concentrate on those short-term net cash flow income streams and profit margins, and then putting those dollars to work for the long run. And that's where the real estate side comes in. And yes, I am right now, I am not a buyer in real estate. I love real estate. I've been an investor for a long time, but I am not a buyer because it's not a buyer's market. It's a seller's market. Now, I am looking to 1031 a property from one area in Colorado to an area ideally in either Florida or Arizona. And I am hoping to get more square footage for the dollar, but I am also only doing that because of a 1031 exchange, whereby I think I could do much better by way of a short-term rental and replicating what I've done with my current VRBO instead of preserving that as a long-term rental. So that's why I'm doing it. It's an even trade by way of the advantage of being a seller right now and the disadvantage of being a buyer on the other end. It's kind of an even wash other than the costs of the transaction. But by 1031 exchanging, I'm taking advantage of the tax loophole and I'm not paying taxes on that property. And so for me, it's all about a cash flow move, right? If I can go from a marginal cash flow position of $600 or $700 a month to another $10,000 per month net cash flow position like the VRBO I have today, then certainly the dollars make sense by way of losing the costs of the transaction, paying the agents, any closing costs associated with the deal, et cetera.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you on most of those fronts. So just kind of a quick breakdown and then we'll wrap here. I'm an investor. For me, it's about lines in the water. And we talked about this offline today. So you're trying to put multiple lines in the water. Some are going to take, some are not. What are you looking at? When do you pull out? When do you go in?
You're right. I mean, I think with one line in the water, at best you catch a fish, with 10 lines in the water, at best you catch 10. Realistically, it'll be somewhere between 1 and 10, So I like to 10x my odds for sure. I'm an odds kind of person. This is why we've spent a lot of time together talking on other videos about paying attention to trends. I'm a trends-based person. I definitely like to be aware of what is going on in my space. Again, while consciously neglecting or ignoring the mainstream noise, and there is a balance there because sometimes you got to really get into the serious conversations that aren't as favorable to what I'm hoping for. We like to put daisies in our eyeballs and kind of forget that it doesn't always go our way.
Puppy dogs and ice cream, right? And rainbows, right?
Well, and that's where I think backup plans are super important on the front end. So you ask, how do I make decisions as to what lines I cast? It really does boil down to safety, and I'm a conservative person. Ultimately, I'm not prepared at any point in my life to lose everything. It just won't happen because of the plan B's and C's that are there if necessary.
Diversification. I mean, exactly that. You can lose one or two or three of those lines, and you have backup plans. You've got A, B, C, D. You can go through the alphabet, and every time you're going to have that kind of safety net, if you will.
Exactly. And beyond that, it's within each decision, there are also safety nets too. It's beyond just the diversification. If a short-term rental property became a long-term rental by accident versus on purpose, I'm already aware of what that property's performance potential is before I commit to the purchase. I'm looking at that property not just as a short-term rental, but what if this becomes an actual traditional rental property? Can it sustain itself from a cash flow standpoint also? So it's not just let me have 10 properties in case one or two of them unravel. It's if this unraveled based on plan A, what are the backup strategies for this specific property or other investment in general? So yeah, I mean, it's very important on the front end to just be a what if type of person. What if it doesn't go as you hope it does? What are your, what is the exit strategy at that point, right? Have a plan in place and try to detach yourself. Look at what's happening in cryptos. The reason cryptocurrencies are continuing to decline is because inexperienced retail buyers like I was 4 years ago are freaking out. People are jumping ship and losing a ton of money in the process. And if they were capable of doing what they committed to themselves to do in the front end of this, where people did not plan to sell unless they made money, but instead chose to because it got too hard, that to me is another major reason that people end up taking L's, is because they quit because of the emotional involvement. You have to be strong enough to have the willpower, or that investment is probably not a good choice for you.
Yeah, don't invest in the first place if it's not money you can't afford to lose. Ultimately, you don't lose money if you don't sell. So very, very specific, great investment advice. We're going to go ahead and cut it off, Matthew. And as a tribute to you, I would love you to close down the episode today.
Yeah, everybody, I thank you so much for your patience while I've been enjoying myself, sort of living off the grid. Certainly, it doesn't mean I've forgotten about any of you. I appreciate everything that you guys do when you're here. Consider subscribing. Michael's done a phenomenal job of filling my shoes. This was something that I proposed to him. He was, of course, reluctant. He's got a million things going on, extremely successful individual. And ultimately, he and I are birds of a feather on the subject matter of wealth creation. We believe in the similar types of strategies, and his insight around that is always going to be uniquely valuable compared to mine. And so make sure that you guys tune in, turn on those bell notifications, of course, because it'll obviously alert you when a post is uploaded. And I'm going to continue to be on the channel as often as I can be. Thanks, everybody. Bye.